that when Moshe was put into by the soup over there, so his sister Miriam stood from a distance. Rabbi Yitzchak said, Pasuk Zeh, Kulei Hashem Shechina Nema. The simple shot in the Pasuk talking about that Miriam stood there. But really, it means that the Eibush stood there. And he goes on to explain how all these words in the Pasuk all has a shachas to the Eibush. So, Moshe, steht, was ich hatte, uksiv, steht in the Pasuk, Vayov Hashem, Vayishatzev. Achoisoi, the ksiv, Amal Achoisiot. As Meirochet, steht Meirochet, the ksiv, Meirochet Hashem Niroli. Wadaz, steht, Tesatzer Achosim, Wadaz, so Wadaz, the ksiv, Kikel Deis Hashem. More also, more, the ksiv, more, Hashem Akel, Hashem Imo, ye also, the ksiv, Kiroi, ye also, Hashem Akim, Dover, Loi, the ksiv, Ayiko, Loi, Hashem Shol. So you see that this whole pasuk, really, every word in the pasuk is a different reference to the Eibishter. Now we're going to go about Mitzrayim. Hayakam Chodesh Mitzrayim. So there's a Chodesh Rabbi Shmuel. Chadam Chodesh Mamish. He was new. He came up with new laws. So Mark explains. Mandi Chodesh Mamish. The Ksiv Chodesh. The pasuk says Chodesh. That means new. Umandi the like Siv, it doesn't, there's no report that there was a king that died and they made another king. So it's assuming that it's the same king. The pasuk says that Yosef.
There is a pasuk that says Yom Melech Mitzrayim.
That was one in the middle of the Avodah already.
That was in Tzaras.
That was in the middle, but not over here. So the question is, what is? It doesn't sound right. How could someone be in Mitzrayim and not know of Yosef? All the history of Mitzrayim, the famine and everything. That the Gemara, the Havidomi, commander of Yoda, he made it like he doesn't know. He doesn't recognize. He doesn't know.
So that just says that he started.
That's another shot. That's another shot. The Gemara, but that's not. Over here, the Gemara doesn't say that.
No. I'm saying that he has a
so he said to his people, he's telling them that the Bnei Yisrael, the big number, and they have kavod, they'll defeat us. So Tana, we're going to say, who is Chil? He was the one that gave that started with the trouble for the Jews. How do we know that who is Chil? The Ksiv Pasuk, so he told, he declared, he made a public address. So first comes Bechor, first this is by the Tzvadeya. Now he said, Havan is Chak Malay. In fact, the Gemara, Lahem mi boilay. Instead of saying Loi to him, it should say to them. Rab Chanina, Boyu v'nischakan l'Mashiach Shei Yisrael. He meant, let's see how we could outsmart the Eibishter. What is the question? How should we punish them? Nidonim be'eish. If we'll punish them with fire, Ksiv kihina Hashem be'eish yovet, the Eibishter will come back with fire. So we can't do such a thing. Uksiv ki be'eish Hashem nishbot, that the Eibishter judges with fire. So we can't do such a thing. B'cherev, not now, I'm in the middle of a shir now. B'cherev, if we'll kill them with the sword, so steht the B'chabay as called Basa, that the Eibishter will use his sword against all flesh. Ella Bayab and Idaina B'mayim. Let's give them some punishment through water. Shenema, Shekva Nishma, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by Noach, the Eibishter swore, She'ena Mevi Mabel Oil, Shenema Kime Noach Zoisli. They didn't know that shvur was Kol Oilam, Kula Eina Mevi. Aber Achas, who maybe? Or they made a different mistake. Inami. Who ain't a yoida? Who ain't a maybe marble? The Abish doesn't bring a marble against them. Aber hein boy and below from Beteichoi. They'll go and fall into it. That
Reverse.
is their doing.
I think it says,
They ran to the water. Behind the Rebbe Lezer, this is what Rebbe Lezer said. Ma'adiksiv, Yisro said, "Ki badova asher zodu aleim," that they were punished with what they planned against the Jews. So the Gemara, that means to say, "Big data shebishlu bo nizbashlu." In the pot that they cooked, they ended up being cooked in that pot. In fact, the Gemara, my mashma, the high zodu lishna the data. You're saying kibadova asher zodu. You're saying if you put a pot, wo steht this? Steht zodu. What do I do with a pot? So the Gemara. The exhibit in Posuk, by Yosef, Yaakov knows it. When Yitzchak died, so said Yaakov cooked. So you see that Zodu and Zod, it has something to do with cooking. Amar Reb Chia Ba'aba, Amar Reb Simoy, Shloisha Hoyu Ba'oisa Eitza. This idea of destroying and putting it, the Avdus, the Jewish people, this came from, there were three people in the cabinet, so to say, that they made this thing. So who was it? It's Bilam, Ve'iyov, Ve'yisroi. So he says, Sigmar says that Bilam Sheyotz, Bilam was one who gave the idea. So the soap wasn't there, he got killed. Eiv, Sheshasak, Eiv was quiet. He abstained, he didn't want to say anything. So Nidam Yisurim, Eiv had a lot of Yisurim. In Tanakh, there's a lot of Yisurim in the Sefer Eiv. All the Yisurim that how he was very wealthy, he became very poor, how he had a lot of children, and they all died, and so on and so forth. Yisro Shabarach, Yisro ran away from the meeting. He didn't even want to sit in on it. Zacho, he was Zeicha, Bnei Bonov, his Einigach, Sheyoshu B'Gushkis HaGazas, that they were Dayonim in Gushkis HaGazas, was where the Sanhedrin was. Shenem Meshteten Pasuk, Mishpachas Seifrim, Yoshve Yavitz, Tarisim, Shmatim, Sukosim, Hemo Hakinim, Haboim, Machmas, Avi Beis Rechav. So he calls them Kani. Kinim has to do with Kani. Uksiva said, B'nei Kani, Chosim Moshe, that the children, they were the children of Yisrael, the father-in-law of Moshe. So you see that Kani and Kinim, they were the ones that ended up in the Sanhedrin. Now there's a question over here. We just learned the Gemara that who Hischel b'Eitzah Tchila, and then we learned that Bilam gave the Eitzah.
Right.
So Teretz is a saying. Let's say, if let's say in the government, Trump has a cabinet. So he calls together his cabinet, and his cabinet discusses the thing, and one of the members come up with it. And if he likes it, then he employs it, he makes it. So you don't say, this member from the cabinet said so, so Trump said. The same thing also. These three got together, then they reported back to Pare, and Pare liked the idea, so he came out and he declared it. Okay. Now, Satan Pasuk, V'nilcham banu, ba'olam and aretz, that the Jews will revolt and they'll leave the country. In other words, if there's a war and the Jews win the war, then they'll chase us out, they'll take over the country. So it should have been Volino, and we will have to go out. It's a person's cursing again, but it really means he means himself. Same thing over here also. He said he meant himself, but he said, well, they will go. The question is, I once saw this in a sefer, that why were they afraid of the Jews? Steht Hayidayim Yidei Esav, Vakoko Yankov. So what were they afraid of the Jews?
It was only B'nai Levi that had
So it says, Hayidayim Yidei Esav, but without brains. But you didn't have the brains. And they'll win the war, like today. Israel would have run. You didn't have the brains and have able to do all these things they're doing. Vayisimu olav sorim misum. So it says that they put on him the things that fact the Gemara aleim mi boy. They made the Jews do, not they made him do. That the Gemara told the way the Belazar Bashim Muhammad Shehevi Malbin. They brought a form. V'tolu loy l'pare b'tzavare. They hung it, like they take, let's say this is a form, and they hung this form around his neck, and in here was the material that you need to make a brick, and they were able to show that Pare is making bricks. They wanted to, what the heck is this? So what did they do? So Satan said, Tana the Beit of Reb Shimon, Malama Sheviu Malvin, they brought a form, the Tolu Lupare B'Savare, they hung it on the Pare, V'chol Echad V'Echad Yisrael She'om Lehem Istinasani, everybody that wanted to get out of work, they said, I'm very weak or what, I'm very sensitive, I can't do it. They said to him, Klum Istinasata Yesmi Pare. Are you more? If Pare has the best excuse, then still look what he's doing. Sorry Misim, what does it mean, sorry Misim? So Tarashi, the Gemara, Davish and Mason, a thing that destroys, it destroyed the people. Ramana Noisei Bisavoisum. What does it mean? Shegaman Anoisoi. In order to torture him. So the Gemara, that the word Gemara Noisei Pare Bisavoisum the Yisrael. Vayiven order Misnas of Pare. They built storage cities for Pare. That Rav Ushmo. There's a Mochagis. What's the story about these cities? Chadam once said, "Samasaknes as Baleim," that they impoverish. It's like because when you build a big building, you underestimate the cost that it's going to be, and you end up declaring bankrupt in the middle of construction because you run out of money. And one says, Shemisaknes as Baleim, that they put them in danger. because in the construction there's you go up to high floors, they can fall down, so they put them in that danger. The Omama, because we learned Kola Oisek, Bebinyan, Mismaskin. So you see that this is your brother-in-law. You want to go answer it? So the cities that they made them build was as Pisaim versus Ramses. So the question is, where did they get these names, Pisaim and Ramses? So Gemara says, Rabbi Shmuel, Chadam, Pisaim, why was it called Pisaim? Shema, Pisaim Shema. They named it Pisaim. Why did it belong to Nikol Shema Ramses? So it was Pisaim. So why did they call it Ramses? He says, Rishon, Misraises, they kept building and it kept caving down. They kept building and it kept caving down. The Chadam once said the opposite. Ramses Shemo. Really the name was Ramses. V'gam Nikol Shema Pisaim, Rishon, Pi Tahaim Bailay. It would sink in. They'd build up a few floors and it would sink into the ground. They had to start over again. So it's a tremendous waste of time in all this construction. Ken Yifres, back to Gemara, V'chein Potzu Mi Boy. Ken Yifres is in the future. It should have been Ken Potzu. So the Gemara, Amr Shokash, this is the Abish said this. Ruach HaKodesh Mivas Rasam. The Abish let the Egyptians know that Kasha Yahno says, what should you torture them? Can year for it in the future, he will continue break through and expand. Then it said, Vayakutsu, with Bnei Yisrael, they couldn't take it already. They couldn't take the Jews. V'gamed shoyedayim beinayim kekaitzim. In other words, when they saw the success of the Yidden, that the part of V'rovim, so this what it struck their eyes, like it blinded them. Then steht in Posuk, V'avida Mitzrayim, es v'nei Yisrael v'farach. Question is, what does the word v'farach mean? Something Gemara. Rabbi Shmuel ben Nachmani Amar, v'fricha. V'fricha means like breaking. They were breaking them. Then it steht by Moros Chayim, Ba'avayda Kasha, B'chaim B'oveinum. Amar Rava, B'tchila, B'chaim B'oveinum. V'b'say B'chal Avayda Basara. In other words, they started easy with them, and then they get making harder and harder work. It says it's called Avaydasim. Ashav D'Bem B'farach, all the work that they worked before, Amar of Shmuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Shay Machifin, Machefas Anoshim, Unoshim, Umachefas Noshim, Anoshim. They gave the men to do work that women normally do, and they gave the women to do work that men normally do. So tomorrow, Abu Human Diyama Hosam Beferach, some say that at the beginning it said, Rabbi Gozer said Beferach. Beferach means with soft talk. They got them in with soft talk. So the Gemara, Hochav Adai Bepricha, over here it doesn't mean with soft talk. Over here it means that they're breaking them down. But tomorrow, Dorish Rabbi Vida said, Yishchan Noshim Tzikoni Yesh by Zador, Nigel Mitzrayim, Nigel Yisrael Mitzrayim. What did the woman do so much that they get credit? He said, B'shas they went to draw water to bring to the husbands in the field. They work during the day in the field. It's very hot. HaKadosh Baruch Hu masnu ham dogim k'tanim. So in the water, there was a small fish, bikadayim, in their pitchers, with which they draw the water. V'shayavos, so they would draw ungeshept, machza mayim or machza dogim. In other words, when they put it into the well, so it came up, half of it was full of fish, and half was full of water. Boys, and they went, the shayvsais, steikedators, they would take 2 pots, or these 2 pots, they would put them on the oven. One was the water, so they had the warm water, and one was the fish. And they would bring it to their husbands in the field. They washed them, they anointed them, and they gave them to eat also. And they were in good spirits. So near the borders, by the corners of the field, they have these stones that show where the
property line is.
Where the property goes. Shenema, im Tischgewum bench Versayim, and V'schar Tischgewum bench Versayim, Zoch Yisrael with Bizas Mitzrayim. They was there to the Bizas that they got on the train. That's not the Bizas Hayom. That's the V'shol Ishim Mishkantu Merusa. That's what they got one before they left Mitzrayim. Because the Shaitan Posnik, Kam for Yoina Nechretz Nechba Bakesef, Vebersel Biraka Chorotz. So this refers to the Bizas Hayam. V'kimesh Mesabres. Once they became pregnant, boys were Besayim. In other words, they didn't come anymore. They were hanging around with the husbands in the field. As they came home. And it came time to give birth. They went and they gave birth in the fields. Tachas atapuach, under an apple tree. Shenema tachas atapuach oraticha. I awoke you under the apple tree. VaHaKadosh Baruch Hu shaleach mishmei moren. The Eibusha sent malachim. Misha menaker u'mishaper oisum. The one that cleaned the women and the babies. Kechayazu, like a nurse. Shemishaperes es habrad. Shenema u'mayvadatayach. B'yoim haledes oisach. The nurse that helped you give birth in the day when you gave birth, like koras sorecha, it didn't cut what is called the navel cord.
The umbilical cord.
The umbilical cord. B'mayim v'rechatzta, v'mishi, and who did all this? There were malachim that came to do it. Umarakat lahem shnei agurim. There were 2 round balls. Achashel shemen v'achashel dvash. One was oil, and one was honey. Shenema v'yinekeh dvash v'sala v'shemen b'chal m'sum. V'kivan she'makirin b'hem Mitzrayim. When the Mitzrayim recognized that there's more children and everything being born lahagam, they wanted to kill them. So what happened? V'nasa neis v'nevoim v'kaka. They sunk into the ground. Umaviyan shvarim. So they brought oxen. But v'choshin hagabeim, and they plowed
where they went
on top of where they were. Shenema agabi choshu on top of me. They plowed with a plow. V'achar shahochen after the Mitzrayim went away, Hoyim is Vatzim v'Yotzim, they would sprout out from the under the ground. Ke'esev hasoda, like grass. Shenema, Revova Kesemach hasoda das haticha, v'kivashem is gadrim. They came bigger. Boim adorim u'beisayim. They came big groups home. Shenema v'tibi v'tigdali, v'tavoi badi adayim. Now badi adayim means with jewelry. So the Gemara says, Al-Tikri badi adayim el be'edrei adorim. Edrei adorim means groups of a flock of like animal. Ukshenigel HaKadosh Baruch al ayam. Haim hikiru tchila. They were the first to recognize the Hebrew. Shenema zekeli v'avayim. Okay, just a minute. So that finishes this part. Sagt die Mutter, steht in Posek, bei Yemen Melch Mitzrayim, am Yaldas Yivgesh. The king of Mitzrayim said to the Jewish nurses, said to Rabbi Shmuel, who are these Jewish nurses that they said to? So Rabbi Shmuel, Chad Amar Isha Ubita, one says it was a lady and her daughter, V'chad Amar Kala V'chamosa, it was a daughter-in-law and a mother-in-law. So Mandi Amar Isha Ubita, it was Yecheved and Miriam. Mandi Amar Kala V'chamosa was Yecheved Elisheva, because Aaron married Elisheva Bas Aminadav, and Yecheved was the mother-in-law. So tomorrow, Tanya command the Oma Isha Ubita. We have a brisa that seems to agree with the Isha Ubita, that concept. Because the sign we learned, Shifra Zu Yecheved. Shifra was Yecheved. V'loman Nikishmo Shifra Shem Shaperes as Avlad. Pesach means that she straightened out the baby. When it comes out, you have to straighten out the bones, straighten out the little baby. Davaracha, another reason why she's called Shifra, Vashaporu Virabu Yisrael B'Yamehom. The Yidden multiplied, that there was Shisha B'Karesachot. Miriam, why is Miriam called Pua? V'lama nika shema Pua, shehaisa pa'eya pa'eya, we don't have these words, she would speak to the child. She would speak to the baby like a mother speaks to her little baby. And Davaracha, why was it called Pua? Pua has to do with speaking. What was she speaking? Shepaya Beruach HaKodesh. My medicine would say, I see the Imi Shetelad Ben Shem Mashiach Yisrael. So the king said to them, Vayem Be'alechem Asiriyos Urisum Al Havnoyim. So the Gemara, my Avnoyim, what is this Avnoyim that he told them about? So Amar Rav Chanan, Simon Gadol Mosalahem, he gave them a simon to know that the woman's giving birth. She shouldn't be able to hide the child. So I didn't give birth, or what, the child didn't come alive, whatever. So a simon that she's giving birth was Olahem B'shor Shekaras Leilet, at the time when she gets ready to deliver the child, Yakesel Mistananais, her thighs become frozen up, Kavonim like stones. V'istiyama Ksiv V'ered Beis HaYotzer V'hine hu oisa malacha al ha'avonim. So the shot is, ma yoisa, just like the smith. This smith, Yerech Mikan, Yerech Mikan, he has two pieces of wood from both sides, and there's like a belt that goes across, and he works, he sits on the belt, Yerech Mikan. With sudden the answer, there's like a piece of leather in the middle. Af Isha, Yerech Mikan, Yerech Mikan, Vavad the answer. Now he said to them, in Benhu, Vamita Moshe. Now, question, how will they know if it's a boy or a girl?
Hanina.
Simon Godo Moshe, he told them a secret that you should know this rule and you'll know if it's a boy or a girl. Ben Pona Lamata and Bas Pona Lamata. When the boy comes out, he's looking down, and when the girl comes out, she's looking up.
How does that answer the question?
Huh?
How does that answer the question?
Not a question.
No,
He's just telling him instructions.
So they'll see right away if it's a boy or a girl. They'll have no excuses. The mothers will not have any excuse. But then Amiyalda says, "Oh, Kim." So the nurses were afraid. They had Yerushalayim. Boy, also Kashadiba Aleim. Aleim means about them. It should have said Lahem, speaking to them. Lahem, boy. Omer Rabbi Yosef Achinin Muhammad Shetovim Mutvad Aveya. He saw that they're very good to professionals, so he wanted to have an Aveda with them. They didn't agree. Sheshet and Pasuk, but the Chayana es Hayodim. But the Chayana means they made live. So what does it mean they made live? Tano, loy dying, shoy misu I not, they surely didn't kill them. El shoy mesapkes lehem mayin or Muslim. They provided them food right away as soon as they were born. The Mepharshim say, what's the type? This is another type. What's the type about the Chayeno they made live? Because there's a certain, in children giving birth, there's a certain amount of mortality rate. A certain percentage, one in 500 die. So they were afraid if 1 in 500 will die, that mother will accuse them that they killed, that they picked on one in order to satisfy parent. So, but the Chayana means they made live the children. That those who were supposed to die even in birth, they made them live in order not to be suspected. So Vatemana, so Pare complained to them, what's going on over here? So Vatemana Hamalal El Pare, they said to Pare, Kiloika Noshim Mitzvahs every year. There's a difference between Egyptian women and Jewish women. Kichoyes Hainam. So Pasha the Tash Kichoyes Hainam means that they're nurses. They don't need us. So the Gemara, my choyes. What does it mean nurses? Choyes mamish. If it means nurses, in fact the Gemara Oto Chaya Mila Tzricha Chaya Achriti Lida. If a nurse wants to give birth to a child, she has to go through the whole process, so she needs a nurse to help her. Ella, Omer said to him, Umazul Kachaya Nimshua. Animals, when they give birth, one animal doesn't help another one. They do it themselves. They said that these people are like Chayas. And he goes on to explain, Yehuda Gur Aye, Don Yehinochash. Naphtali Ayoah Shlucha, Yisachar Hakamar Gorim, Yosef B'chor Shor, Binyamin Ze'ev Yitra. And the Ksipa who, by those that it says, Shetel B'feidish they're like Chayas. And Ksipet, with the like Siv, and on those that it doesn't say they're like Chayas, Ksiv Bey, Ma Imcha, Levia Bein Aroyas. Your mother is like a lioness amongst lions. Rebotza laying down over it. Yes, certain pasuk said, "Vahiki Yoro Hamalaldus as Hokim," that because the Miyaldus feared Hashem and they didn't kill the children, so state Vayas Lahem bottom. He made them houses. So what does it mean? He made them houses. Rabbi Shmuel Chadam Bote Kahuna Uleviyah, that they had, from them came out Bote Kahuna Kahanim and Leviyim. Chadam Bote Malchus, they came out kings. So the Gemara, Mandi Am Bote Kahuna Leviyah, the one that says that came out Kahanim and Leviyim, so it's Aaron or Moshe. Aaron was a Kohen and Moshe was a Levi. Or you could say Aaron was a Levi and Moshe was a king, but he was Shuna Melech, was a Moshe. Uman diyama bate malchus. Some that say that means kings. Forget, so that's Kahuna and Leviah. Is Aaron Uman diyama bate malchus. It goes on David, because David nami mi Miriam ka'osim. David, his yichus goes back to Miriam. And Miriam, we said, was poor. Now, how do we know that Miriam, that David goes back to Miriam? So Gemara says, the Ksiv says, Apostle, but Thomas Azuba Eshes Kolov. Azuba had a wife. Azuba was the wife of Kolov, and she died. The Gemara explain what it means to what it means she dies. Vayikach Kolov as Ephras. So Kolov married Ephras. Vateled Rei as Chur. She gave birth to Chur. Because Chur was the son of Miriam. Uksiv steht in Pasuk, David ben Ish Ephrosi. David had a shaykhs to Ephras. So Miriam and Ephras is Miriam. And Kolev is from Yehuda, and David is from Yehuda. The male complains that from his mother's side, he had a shaykhus to Miriam. Now the Gemara is going to explain what's the shot that Azuba, whatever. That's the next piece of Gemara. We'll leave that over there.